can't find 17 officers' rubber bullet. President, we do begin tonight with Los Angeles bracing tonight after sweeping immigration raids sparked protests and clashes tonight. A U.S. official now confirming to ABC News 700 Marines are now on their way to Los Angeles to join California's National Guard, which was deployed by the president, not that state's governor. Late this afternoon, a peaceful protest after the arrest of a union leader, but the city is bracing for nightfall. It was a far different scene over the weekend. Protesters setting off fireworks right there, police officers right nearby. A line of self-driving vehicles set on fire. Crowds shutting down the 101 freeway downtown. LAPD officers trying to move them off. The moment a U.S.-based correspondent from Australia reporting on the protests. You can see there, she's hit by an officer's rubber bullet. President Trump going over the governor's head, sending the state's National Guard to the scene, and tonight he's now sending hundreds of these U.S. Marines. Our chief national correspondent, Matt Gutman, leading us off tonight on the scene in Los Angeles. Matt is one-on-one with border czar Tom Homan tonight.
Tonight, 700 Marines are on their way to the streets of Los Angeles to assist the National Guard and law enforcement tamp down violent clashes with protesters angry over the Trump administration's immigration policies and arrests. Over the past 72 hours, pockets of LA descending into chaos. Protesters setting cars on fire, dumping bikes and scooters on police cruisers on the highway. Law enforcement firing hundreds of flashbangs and non-lethal projectiles and making dozens of arrests. It got so heated in the streets that a British photographer needed emergency surgery after being struck by a non-lethal projectile.
Moving them on through the...
And there was this moment. Watch as a correspondent for 9 News Australia reporting on the protest when an officer hits her with a rubber pellet. And tonight, an escalating war of words between California Governor Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. Newsom suing the president for creating the conditions for this chaos when he sidestepped California officials to deploy thousands of National Guard troops.
Are you going to deploy Marines in California?
We hope to have the support of Gavin because Gavin's the big beneficiary as we straighten out his problems. I mean, his state is a mess.
Newsom then slammed by Trump and border czar Tom Homan for his response to the unrest. Homan initially suggesting the governor should be arrested, something Trump seemed to support just hours ago.
I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job.
Newsom responding again, calling that an unmistakable step toward authoritarianism. I asked Homan about that.
If Gavin Newsom crosses whatever threshold it is and violates the law, do you have the authority to arrest him or Mayor Karen Bass?
If he broke the laws like any other U.S. citizen, we'll ask the Attorney General to investigate and they'll prosecute. Tom Homan's not going to prosecute.
Spontaneous clashes began Friday as federal agents conducted multiple operations in and around Los Angeles. On Saturday, protests mostly peaceful grew larger when agents were seen staging in nearby Paramount, California. By Sunday, a convoy of heavily armed and camouflaged troops arrived. We watched as the clashes intensified as the day progressed.
Just moments ago, there's some projectiles being thrown. Just moments ago, a motorcycle seemed to try to break through the police skirmish line. And now you can hear all those flashbangs going off. Police are trying to push those protesters back, firing those less than lethals at very close range. And you can see those projectiles being thrown over. Now that motorcyclist being hauled in here, looks like he's being arrested.
LAPD's chief overnight saying they may need more help.
We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing.
And thousands today gathering peacefully, calling for the release of a prominent union leader arrested Friday during one of those workplace raids.
A lot of us are American citizens. So then what are we working for? What is the American dream? It doesn't even exist when you're picking people out of the street.
David, just want to give you a sense of where we are. This is the federal building in downtown Los Angeles, and there are probably a couple hundred peaceful protesters here outside. You can see that line of federal agents and California National Guard. Right now, everything is peaceful, but on the other side, there are probably about 100 LAPD in riot gear. Now, Tom Homan telling me that he supports additional troops in downtown Los Angeles, but a short time ago, Governor Gavin Newsom tweeting that the presence of active duty Marines here in Los Angeles is un-American. David.
Matt Gutman leading us off on a Monday night. Matt, thank you.
Shabbat Shalom, Yasharallah, peace be into the nation of Israel, whom automated they so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, Inspector Israelites, being Israelite foreigners scattered across the four corners of the earth, including within America, Babylon the Great, the main place for our captivity. And we are the Most High Yahweh's chosen people of the nation of Israel. So without further ado, as always, in the Lashon Kadash, being holy tongues, in the Paleo Hebrew, being the ancient Hebrew, I'm going to give all praises, glory, infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom was the God of the living, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Baruch Kodash, which is our praise to the Heavenly Father, Yahweh, in the name of his only begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, and the Holy Spirit, who is our strength and our Redeemer, and our light and our salvation. In the same tongue, I'm Adamashana Kaborium, Lahasaquanium, Shal, Gadawabakah, meaning double honors to the apostles and elder bishops, great millstone, and Shalom, honors and salutations to Bayashid Abadah, meaning the house of David, of the 1/3 elect, 1/3 remnant of the nation of Israel, along with the rest of the 1/3 elect men, women, and children of Israel. This is your fellow servant Malak Rayab, back at it again with another prophetic update through the spirit of prophecy, being a testimony of our Lord and Savior, Hamashiach Yahushai, who the masters of the world eagerly refers to, Jesus Christ. All right, this is another prophetic update of Jacob's trouble in Jeremiah 13:7. All right, time of great civil unrest fueled by racial tensions on behalf of Esau, Edom. All right, directed towards, the victims of the society, so to say, those of the bloodline of whom this so-called nation, this so-called God-fearing nation, was established off of. All right, which are the so-called Negroes and indigenous of the southern and northern kingdoms of Israel. All right, and those of the Israelite foreigners whose bloodline derives back to, those two groups of individuals or two groups of people, all right, of the lost tribes of Israel, being further persecuted, all right, by this devil's beast system, all right, on behalf of Esau, Edom's government, all right, looking to further bring forth these nationwide chaos, all right, on behalf of Esau's Hegelian dialectic, all right, the whole concept associated with order out of chaos. As Trump just recently said, is reported here on Express US, he warns that, quote unquote, we are going to have troops everywhere after ICE protests. All right, he's going into the concept of as above, so below. All right, he's going into, which is that the whole, it's basically the whole, concept of desires, certain desires being projected into reality, often, done through coercion, which is forced persuasion. All right, through Esau's agent activity of these agent provocateurs. All right, the military, all right, exercised recently through the Insurrections Act, by DJT. All right, to further draw or trigger reactions out of particular targeted demographic of people, the undesirables, okay, which happens to be our people, the lost tribes of Israel. All right, which further reveals the whole, purpose or meaning of his slogan, "Make America Great Again." That is to make America pure again, make America white again by, expelling it from all of his undesirables. Okay, which further confirms that slogan is, has nothing to do with global peace. All right, regarding the well-being of the U.S. citizens through national security. All right, for the fact that this devil's approach is been further exposed as hypocritical. Okay, by way of the 59 so-called white South Africans he's allowed, to be brought into this so-called God-fearing country. All right, with offered housing and other benefits that is not being equally reciprocated to people that so happens to be so-called melanated. All right, which is all further done by design. It's all a part of Esau's Hegelian dialectic, and it's all further exposing his intentions to remove the so-called God-fearing country, all right, of the people that established it. All right, so it says here, President Trump warned there would be troops everywhere when asked if he would take more action if the LA protests continue to rage amid fears that martial law may be declared. In a directive Saturday, Trump invoked a legal provision allowing him to deploy federal service members when there is rebellion or danger of a rebellion against authority of the government of the United States. All right, which typically, the Insurrections Act is only supposed to be enacted when, the so-called, God-fearing countries in America is threatened by foreign enemies, which they're falsely associating that with the so-called immigrants and migrants or the demographic of so-called Negroes and indigenous people, or if, America, Babylon the Great is under any kind of, any kind of national security threat, which that's not currently taking place at the moment. So once again, this is all Fred exposing Esau's hidden agenda. I'm gonna go ahead and jump down to the end of this article. All right, to focus on this particular part here, the section. Let me see here. I'm going to jump down a bit. Let me see. All right, Salak. So it says, let me jump up. It says California Governor Gavin Newsom requested Trump remove the Guard members in a letter Sunday afternoon, calling their deployment a serious breach of state sovereignty. He was in Los Angeles meeting with local law enforcement and officials. The deployment appeared to be the first time in decades that a state's National Guard was activated without a request from its governor, a significant escalation against those who have sought to hinder the administration's mass deportation efforts. So that's further going into the sedition amongst men of these violent uprisings against tyrannical, violent, and vile governments, such as America, Babylon the Great, all right, which this current spat or tension, all right, between California's governor Gavin Newsom and DJT is a further further fulfillment of that prophecy in 2 Ezra 15:16. All right, going to the sedition amongst men against these corrupt governments, including the division of political officials and judges and attorneys and so forth. All right, against the current commander in chief of America, Babylon the Great, specifically dealing with America, Babylon the Great. No, but what's actually interesting about Gavin Newsom is that he's actually funded by George Soros, or the same one, all right, who has funded, these left-wing protesting organizations such as Antifa, okay, associated with the left-wing, so-called, the left-wing Democratic Party, including, the whole Black Lives Matter movement, okay, that was used in 2020 to produce chaos and mayhem, similar to what's going on in LA, okay, and now in Texas and other areas in America, such as Chicago, New York, because as Trump said, there will be troops everywhere. This is a public proclamation of declaring martial law, okay, gradually, all right. So this is on Fox News, and it says George Soros gives another $500,000 to pro-Newsom effort, bringing total support to $1 million. All right, it says left-wing billionaire mega donor George Soros gave another $500,000 to a group supporting embattled California Governor Gavin Newsom, financial disclosure records show. Now, before we going to continue with that, I'm going to bring out this quick article. All right, further, and going into the recent update, as it says here on BBC News, of DJT sending another 2,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines to LA on 4th day of unrest. So not only did he send another 2,000 National Guard troops, but also 700 Marines. All right, that that the California, the Los Angeles, I believe it was the Los Angeles mayor Karen Bass, had recently just expressed, displeasure with Trump's efforts to do that. Basically deeming it excessive and unnecessary, to call for further excessive military force, all right, because of it being deemed as unnecessary or excessive and unnecessary, which is further confirming that he is further abusing his authority, okay, further confirming him to be, the tyrant that Isaiah 19:4 refers to, okay. So it says, matter of fact, let's go ahead and get that, Isaiah 19:4. And the GNT, and it says, I will hand the Egyptians over to a tyrant, to a cruel king who will rule them. I, the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Eshai Almighty, have spoken. All right. So the word, the prefix of Egyptian as in Egypt means bondage. Regarding the house of bondage in America is spiritual Egypt, as it says in Revelation 11:8, and similar precepts throughout the scriptures, throughout the volume of the book. All right. Because Egypt is another spiritual alias to America. All right, further revealing its, true nature of bondage, captivity. Okay, in the case of, Esau abusing these asylum laws to throw Jake into these migrant detention facilities, which is a further fulfillment of the prophecy of the curse in Deuteronomy 28 and I believe it's the 32nd verse. Okay, matter of fact, let me get that real quick. All right, Deuteronomy chapter 28 and all right, Deuteronomy 28 and 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given to another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand, because of Esau's immoral decrees through his policies, okay, through this beast system set up, the same beast system that was established in the 19th century around 1846 when the Edomite president James K. Polk, requested for the military to wage war on the Mexican government to seize Mexican territory and incorporate that Mexican territory into America, including Arizona, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Mexico itself, Texas, which was Tejas previously, and so forth. Okay. All right. So history is repeating itself while these devils are continuing to usurp their authority over lands that never belonged to them. All right. Because really the true founding fathers of America, the Northern Kingdom Israelites. All right. But yet they don't have any might in their hand to prevent Esau from separating their families because of the curses. Now let's go ahead and get that. Let's go ahead and get a quick video. All right. To further illustrate that. All right. If it can load. Yeah, that's not it. Oh, damn devil. Yeah, here it is.
¿Quisieras decir algo? Mis hijas esperándonos en la casa. 6 niñas tengo. Dependen de nosotros. ¿Ella es la mamá? Sí. ¿Y por qué se la están llevando? ¿A qué vinieron? Es lo que están haciendo ahorita, por eso no venga nadie. No vengan porque se los van a llevar a todos. Están ahí arriba muchos de migración esperando que les cumplan el caso para llevárselos. ¿Cómo te llamas? Eduardo. ¿Y ella cómo se llama? Carmen Herrera. ¿Qué pasó? ¿Me puedes decir qué pasó? Les tomaron el caso y se la van a llevar.
So basically what Esau did is throw this Jake woman's case out despite her her efforts of legally seeking U.S. citizenship. So she went about it the right way and got punished for it. So you kind of in the sake of Jake seeking to coexist in Esau's system, it's like it's essentially as if you're damned if you do or damned if you don't, man. So it's just better, our people it's just a further reminder that our people are better off serving the Lord, man, and unconforming our minds from this place and just navigating here as we, as much as we possibly can. Now, in the case of this devil's immoral decrees, all right, regarding our people labeled as migrants, immigrants crossing the border, they're either crossing the border for salvation of the 1/3 elect remnant of the nation of Israel, or they're crossing the border for damnation, because America is a gigantic snare, it's a trap. Okay, case in point. All right, so I'm gonna play another quick video to further expound on Deuteronomy 28 and 32 and go into the prophecy how there would be no might in the hands of our people to prevent our enemies, including our arch nemesis, our main enemy Esau Edom, to prevent him from separating our sons and our daughters from us. Now, this is another video. I'm going to play this one here. All right, it says in New York City, migrant children as young as 4 years old are being forced to appear in immigration court alone without a lawyer or guardian by their side. Many of them attend these hearings virtually from shelters, confused and scared, trying to navigate a legal system that even adults struggle to understand. All right, so play a little bit of this.
Proceedings here in court are all about. Are you a little nervous this morning? See? Do you understand what these proceedings here in court are all about? You know what a lawyer is?
So they're mocking this boy. Okay? They speak loftily concerning oppression, pursuing to Psalm 73 and 8.
Are you a little nervous this morning?
Yeah, enough of this madness. So no, that's pretty much the point. All right, so I'm going to play this next video.
Civilization.
Yeah, you know, this crackdown is personal for Stephen Miller, as I report in my book, Hate Monger. When he was a high school student in Los Angeles, he frequently antagonized his Latino and immigrant classmates, telling them to, quote, speak English and to go back to their home countries. Back then, he was criticized for his views, and he has spent his career trying to punish the communities that rejected him. These mass deportations are not about border security. They're not about crime. They're about erasing the multicultural fabric of places like Los Angeles. And, you know, I want to repeat that this is not about cracking down on crime. Let's remember that on his first day in office, President Trump pardoned the people who violently assaulted law enforcement during the storming of the Capitol on January 6th. So Trump and Miller are not against crime. They're not against gang members. In fact, in my book, I extensively document Miller's early dreams of being a gangster. What they're doing is they're running a mafia state that scapegoats immigrants as a pretext for the subjugation of us all. So again, they do not care about law and order. Miller's central obsession was never illegal immigration. It was always legal immigration. This is why from day one you saw the strangling of refugees, access to refugees, a suffocation of the asylum system, strangling of green card access, the attack on birthright citizenship, trying to now invoke the Insurrection Act to deport people indiscriminately simply based on the color of their skin. So again, this is not about national security. It is an ideological project of demographic engineering cloaked in the language of law enforcement, and LA is resisting.
Yeah, aka white nationalism. So this is what the Make America Great slogan was all about. It's part of this, like she said, it's part of the Esau's experiment, using our people as guinea pigs, as he always has been. All right, through the Tuskegee experiment, okay, the whole CV-19 experiment. And there's countless other examples, man. Just to further confirm, just to further showcase this devil's hatred towards our people. All right, so speaking of hatred, I'm going to play this quick video.
About either. You asked for it, you got the police. You asked for it again. Describe to you the late teens early law is domestic attack. If your reaction, first of all,
life, because it's starting to turn stupid for you.
The protests in LA and the morons defending it have me more fired up than I've been in a long time. First of all, this whole fucking remember your oath. Yeah, pussy, I remember my oath. And it was to defend America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And if your reaction to law enforcement enforcing the law is to wave your foreign flag while you burn shit down, block roads, attack federal agents, attack the police, you are an enemy of the United States. Whether you are foreign and you came here illegally, or you were born here and you're a domestic enemy of the United States. I promise you, regardless of which one you are, we are on that ass. If your response to law enforcement enforcing the law is to further break the law, And I can't even describe to you the men that they're going to send, the Marines, joined in like the late teens, early 20s with hopes and dreams of getting war in the Middle East. And then the war ended. And now you're bringing it to their front door. I cannot describe to you the type of foaming from the mouth that these men are doing to go to LA. And there won't be a shred of moral conviction about it either. You asked for it, you got the police. You asked for it again, you got the National Guard. You asked for it a third time, and now Daddy's about to be on his fucking way to clean shit up because you're so fucking stupid. And I promise you that there's not anything that you can do against the world's finest large-scale fighting force.
Yeah, so this devil just referred to his people as, you know, the daddies as in the fathers of our people. You see, this is a part of narratives, part of that these stereotypes that we're degenerates, we're incompetent, all right. You know, we're the most defiled, you know, the most, you know, downtrodden people, you know, who don't deserve any rights, who rather deserve to be regulated, okay, by the so-called founding fathers. Okay, is essentially the tone of this devil's sentiment, all right? Because this devil is itching to shed the blood of our people. It says in Amos 1:11 how, you know, Esau, Edom was to keep that perpetual hatred towards, you know, Jake forever, including the descendants of Jake, all right, the Israelites, so-called Negroes and indigenous people, all right? So once these devils get that ultimate green light in the midst of this Constitution being suspended, all right, the economy, you know, collapsing, and you know, Esau justifying law and order, is going to be, you know, Jake is going to be food out here, man. The 2/3 of our people, the 2/3 of Jake, all right, you know, going out there and indulging in these protests and riots and so forth, you know, playing into the devil's hands, because that's what he wants our people to do by triggering, you know, emotional reactions from them, by getting under their skin. Okay. Once again, you know, of that Freemasonic ideology, as above, so below. All right, pressure from above, pressure from below. All right.
Off the leash. I don't know who need to hear this.
And so that's pretty much the point there. So let's go back to Isaiah 19:4, and the GNT says, "I will hand the Egyptians over to a tyrant, to a cruel king who will rule them. I, the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Shai Almighty, have spoken." All right, so let's go ahead and get Proverbs 28:15, and it says, "As a roaring lion and a raging bear, so is a wicked ruler over the poor people." Okay. All right, so just like such similar to an animal, you know, it is how, you know, a wicked ruler is likened to that rules over poor people. You know, ruling over them as brute beasts, untamable brute beasts with an insatiable appetite to just shed blood. And this is the mind frame of Esau, Edom towards our people. This is verse 16. It says, "The prince that wanteth understanding is also a great oppressor, but he that hateth covetousness shall prolong his days." You see, so this is what this devil's agenda is all about. It's about him pushing, you know, his own manner of understanding. Okay, this is what this agenda is all about. Okay, his Hegelian dialectic. Okay, right, which, you know, is basically like a process or ideology of producing comprehensive truths or knowledge or understanding, which is a part of Esau's sensual, devilish understanding. As a matter of fact, let's look that up real quick. Let me see. Hegelian dialectic says, in essence, the Hegelian dialectic is a framework for understanding how ideas evolve and how conflicts can lead to progress. All right, and these orchestrated conflicts, okay, part of Esau's agent activity, through these orchestrated riots and so forth that are taking place and expected to also take place on this military parade coming up on the 14th. Okay, which so happens to also be Trump's 79th birthday, which is not a coincidence. It just further exposing this devil, all right, through his high level witchcraft, through his manipulation and deception, all right, coercion tactics, all right, through these ideologies such as the Hegelian dialectic, ordo ab chaos. Okay, so this is the level of understanding that he's seeking, all right, to further proclaim himself as God by setting the temple of the seat rather of the Most High God. It says in 2 Thessalonians 2:4. So this is Proverbs 28:16. The prince that wanteth understanding is also a great oppressor. But he that hateth covetousness shall prolong his days. Why? Because it says, like it says in Wisdom of Solomon, all right, the 2nd chapter, for through envy of the devil came death into the world. All right. So this devil is envious that our forefather Jacob supplanted him out of his blessing. So this is part of Esau's a part of Esau's agenda, is his attempt to steal back the blessing that our forefather Jacob supplanted his forefather Esau out of, ultimately by chipping everyone. Okay, for the sake of sabotage. It says in St. Matthew 15:14, let them be alone, lest the blind leaders of the blind lead the blind into a ditch. Okay, and the ditch is symbolic of death and destruction. So being like it says in Hebrews the 12th chapter, all right, verse 16 and 17, all right, he sought out salvation carefully with tears. Okay, salvation that he knows will never come to him. So if he can't have it, Jay can't have it. So the whole purpose of this agenda is to eliminate as many Israelites as possible through this insurrection, prophesied in 2nd Ezra the 16th chapter. All right, 2nd Ezra 16 and 70 to be exact. All right, so it's Proverbs 28 and 17. It says, "A man that doeth violence to the blood of any person shall flee to the pit." All right, once again, symbolic of death and destruction. Let no man stay him. Okay, let's get this in the NLT. All right, because this devil is burdened through the bloodshed of our people, not because he is sincerely sorrowful for what he did, because he's being exposed. So now he's relying on damage control tactics, such as justifying why he's ruling over our people like a raging bear or a lion, as I mentioned in Proverbs 28 and 15, by demonizing us to be unlawful migrants, immigrants, violating his laws, okay, his constitutional laws, okay, through seeking legal asylum for the most part, okay, while he's ironically breaking his own laws through the 5th Amendment of apprehending and deporting Jake without due process, okay, which is hypocritical for the fact that he didn't reciprocate that same energy towards them 59 South Edomite, quote unquote, white South African or Edomites, okay, as of recently. Okay, because the agenda is clear. It's being made that much more abundantly clear who is welcome in the so-called country and who isn't. All right. So it's Proverbs 28 and 17, and let me see, in A and P. It says, "A man who is burdened with the guilt of human blood, as in murder, will be a fugitive into death." Why? Because Esau's a vagabond. He doesn't truly have a home. Okay, America was stolen from the natives of the Northern Kingdom. Okay. All right. Africa was named after an Edomite, Leo Skifford Africanus, and the list goes on and on. All right. It says, "A man who is burdened with the guilt of human blood, murder, will be a fugitive into death. Let no one support him or give him refuge." Okay. That's why the world is rising up against this devil, as it says in Job 20 and 27. Okay. Because why? This world is suffering by way of Edomite fatigue. People are tired of this devil. All right. And this devil understands why that is, because he's been exposed for all of his crimes against humanity, specifically the humanity of Jake, of the immense amount of blood that he has shed, okay, for the sake of his rulership. So this is Genesis 9 and 6. And it says, "Whoso sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed. For in the image of the Most High God, Yahweh, made he man." All right. So all of the secular history of bloodshed against the so-called Negroes and indigenous people is all being exposed. Okay, that much more through social media, of the internet, a tool these devils regret creating. Okay, because now it's being used as a digital encyclopedia of infinite information to further expose him. As it says in Psalm 10 and 2, "Let the wicked be taken in the devices they have imagined against the poor." Okay, those who are predominantly impoverished, living in the ghettos, barrios, Indian reservations, who are rich in the spirit, as it says in St. James 2 verses 5 to 6. Okay, by way of being sanctified by Yahweh, all right, through the holy, through the first holy covenant. Okay, deeming the Israelites to be married, joined on to the Heavenly Father. Okay, which is why the Heavenly Father, in the name of His only begotten Son, Yahweh by Shemashai, is fighting for us against this devil in these last days. Within this information war and this spiritual war that we're in, exposing this devil, okay, through the Holy Spirit of the Word, tear down his strongholds and stumbling blocks of oppression and affliction against our people. So this is Job 21 and 20, starting at verse 29, it says, have ye not asked them that go by the way, and do ye not know their tokens, that the wicked is reserved to the day of destruction? They shall be brought forth to the day of wrath. Who shall declare his way to his face? And who shall repay him what he hath done? Okay. And it's the prophets. It says in Amos 5 and 10, they hate those who rebukes them in the gate, roughly paraphrasing. This is Psalm 49 and 11. And it says, their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling place to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. Okay. And this prophecy is filtered from secular history. Okay. Including how America was seized. I'm going to get there real quick. It's on MexicoNewsDaily.com. It's bringing out a quick synopsis of this information. It says 176 years ago today, Mexico lost 55% of its territory. 176 years ago today, at the end of the Mexican-American War, Mexico's territory became 55% smaller, and the U.S.'s territory grew by more than 500,000 square miles. Where the now the states of California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, and parts of Arizona, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Wyoming, once Mexican soil, became United States territory. Now, it says here, this concession, which forever changed the political, economic, and social fate of North America, was stipulated in the terms of the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, signed on February 2nd, 1848. And that was, the terms of that policy was to outlaw slavery, okay, of those under the Mexican government, and mainly our people, to avoid being enslaved, okay, in exchange for the territory from the Mexican government to the U.S., okay, including the states that I just mentioned. So, so it goes into here. At the time, President of the U.S., the Edomite James K. Polk, was a firm believer in manifest destiny, an idea which Hernan Cortez might describe as unoriginal, which Cortez was another Edomite, a Spaniard, that the U.S. had divinely ordained duty ordained by the Most High to expand west across North America. He was determined to take more than Texas. Polk offered $30 million for California and New Mexico, a proposal that offended Mexico and was rejected immediately. Needless to say, he didn't handle the rejection well. Seeking war, Polk sent troops to occupy a disputed area in Texas, which resulted in a clash between Mexican and American troops, provided with the perfect justification for an attempt to take American land by force. Polk asked Congress for approval to declare war against Mexico, which he received in May of 1846, and so began the invasion known as the Mexican-American War. And that's what we're seeing now, man. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay? So we're going to grab this quick precept in Proverbs 23 and 10. And the NLT, and it says, don't cheat your neighbor by moving the ancient boundary markers. Don't take the land of defenseless orphans. All right. And this is more so pertaining to Jake. All right. To avoid Jake from fighting over territory. All right. You know, especially in the case of our forefather Joshua conquering Canaan, which is the modern day Holy Land. OK, and dividing the land between the tribes, except for the tribe of Levi, because they were the priests. All right. Part of the priestly duties of the nation. OK, you know, but you know, in a modern day sense, and being that America is supposed to be a God-fearing country, you know, how come they haven't abided by this law, as in the other laws, such as, you know, the law of homosexuality, which is a sin punishable by death. Okay, but yet they have this entire Pride Month dedicated to that madness. Okay, because it's further, you know, also why they're promoting whoredom, further fornication. Okay, bestiality. Okay, all right, adultery, because America is a sinful kingdom. All right, in Amos 9 and 8. All right, so there's nothing for these devils to take advantage of defenseless orphans, just like they did during the largest shooting in American history. Okay, during the Battle of the Wounded Knee in the late 19th century, Esau lured young Native American children of the tribe of Gad out of their hiding places, you know, within the false hopes or false promises of peace. And when they fell for it, he slaughtered all of them. Okay, and this ultimately stems back to the curses. Okay, so and this is what's further exposing this devil. This is Habakkuk 2 and 12, and it says, "Woe to him that buildeth a town with blood, and establisheth a city by iniquity. And this is why we're seeing utter pandemonium out here in these streets. All right, let's go back to, let me see. All right, go back to Bible Tools and get Isaiah 19:2 in the GNT. It says, the Lord Yahweh by Shemeshai says, I will stir up civil war in Egypt and turn brother against brother and neighbor against neighbor. Rival cities will fight each other and rival kings will struggle for power. All right, and this is why we see Gavin Newsom against Trump and vice versa. We see Trump against Bibi Satan Yahoo over there within the state of Israel. Okay, Trump against Putin and so forth and vice versa. Because there's a division between the house of Basra. There's the house I said in St. Mark 3, verses 23 to 26. You know, Satan's kingdom. If Satan's kingdom is divided, how can it stand? And America is the epitome of the satanic empire, promoting everything that is adverse to righteousness, which is what Satan means, adverse or adversary. Okay, that's why we're seeing a great division here, because there's only peace through righteousness. Okay, that's why we're seeing great division, brother against brother. Okay, including the brothers of Jacob against each other. You know, because in the case of National Guard, there's a quick study. All right, just wanted to go ahead and bring out real quick. Let me see. Yeah, it says here, it's on Zippia.com. It says this is the National Guard demographics of the census regarding, you know, including the statistics of the percentage of so-called Latinos slash Hispanics, so-called, in Esau's National Guards. You can see here, accounting for at least 17.9%, right after the 53% amount of Edomites in the National Guard. So that's quite a bit of people. And this number is actually fabricated because it's a hell of a lot more than 17.9%. Just further confirms a lot of sellouts deporting their own people, apprehending, deporting their own people in the National Guard. Okay, as it says, we're going to get this precept. This is Micah chapter 7 and verse 6. It says, for the son dishonoreth the father, the daughter rises up against her mother, the daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A man's enemies are the men of his own house. This goes into the curse in Deuteronomy 28 and 54. Our brother would be against brother, man. Okay, so-called black, so-called Negro against so-called Latino and so forth. So-called Latino referring to the so-called Negros, Moreno, Mayate. So-called Negro referring to the so-called Latino is Spick, Beaner, so forth. Because our people have been indoctrinated to hate each other. Okay. And, you know, it's of the extension of the Edomite Willie Lynch's How to Create a Slave, which was a divide and war tactic to divide the dark-skinned slave against the light-skinned slaves, the Israelite woman from the Israelite man, and create complete chaos in the home. So he would have room to justify regulating a home. Okay. Through his, you know, his indoctrination through the schools and, all right, the school institutions, okay, the prisons, okay, the mindless entertainment through the bread and circus, you know, platforms, okay, to keep our minds deterred that much more further away from the Lord, while he destroys us simultaneously, so he could further proclaim himself to be our God, our daddy, our father, like that damn Edomite devil, okay, you know, that National Guard member said in that video. Okay, for daddy to play hero. That's what this agenda is all about. Order out of chaos. Create the problem and present the manufactured solution to sustain order, which is really instituting that chip, which is the mark of the beast. Okay, this is Micah 7 and 7. Therefore, I will look unto the Lord, Yahweh by Shemeshai. I will wait for the power of my salvation. My power will hear me. Okay, because in the time of Jacob's trouble, in the time of great civil unrest that's on the horizon, okay, Yahweh by Shemeshai is going to protect his elect. This is Jeremiah 30 and 7. It says, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. All right, the 1/3. All right, the elect. Okay, starting with the house of David and the rest of the 1/3 elect, men, women, and children of Israel. Okay, this is Psalm 9 and 9. It says, the Lord, Yahweh by Shemeshai, also will be a refuge for the oppressed, a refuge in times of trouble. Okay, ultimately through his name, which is our strong tower, in Proverbs 18 and 10. Okay, Yahweh, the name of the Heavenly Father in the ancient Hebrew, Bahashem in the name Yahweh Shai, the true and only Hebrew name in the ancient Hebrew of the Messiah. Psalm 9 and 10. And they that know thy name will put their trust in thee, for thou, Lord, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahshai, has not forsaken them that seek thee. And only elect are seeking the Lord, while 2/3 are seeking Esau's validation, out there protesting, looting, rioting, pillaging. It says in Lamentation 4:17, we have sought a nation that cannot save us. Okay, roughly paraphrasing. All right. This is Second Esdras, because like I said in Second Esdras 16:40, we're supposed to walk as pilgrims out here. Okay, being walking harmless as walking wise as serpents, and harmless as doves. Okay, not walking in a carnal mindset, because when we're out there being carnal in a sense of riding against this devil's riot police and military, okay, we're playing into his hands. Okay, for him to further justify demonizing us as ministers to society. This is 2nd Esdras 15:14. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power," because of lack of resources, okay, through the civil war fueled by racial tensions. It says, "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able," because the border is going to be shut down. It could be military, further surveillance in the border, which is why Trump is looking to sought out to appoint the current U.S. Secretary of the U.S. Secretary of Defense, Peter Hegseth, with federal authority through the military, replacing the border patrol agents, which a good number of them are so-called Latino/Hispanics. Now, a good number of them that appear to be Latino or Hispanics are tares. The Esau will refer to as mestizos, which makes them Edomites. But for the most part, there's a lot of Jakes that are involved in this operation as well. All right, and a lot of them are going to be destroyed. Okay, for their lack of integrity. Okay, looking to coexist with this devil's system by sitting at Satan's table. Okay, the physical manifestation / ambassador of the spiritual demon Satan, Esau, Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, the man of sin and son of perdition, as opposed to fighting on the side of the Lord, on the right hand side. Okay, by exposing this devil, exposing his wickedness. Okay, so a lot of them going to get caught up in this destruction in the midst of the civil war. Okay, so this is 2nd Esdras 15:18. "For because of their pride the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their house with a sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and for great tribulation." Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and play this next video, further expound on that information. All right.
Now is no time for discomfort. Now is no time for...
After doing digging, Good
morning. I'm a truck driver for one of the major grocery distributors on the East Coast. And I've been off for the weekend. And I came into work this morning, and there's nothing for us to do because apparently our computer system has been down for several days. And considering all the news about the riots in Los Angeles and the speculation that it may spread, makes me wonder if we weren't hacked on purpose to deprive the DC and the Baltimore areas of food just to see if the natives would get restless. Makes you wonder.
And it does indeed make you wonder. A shout outs to Mark Lewis there for sharing that information. And DC, Baltimore, you could see an uptick in activity here very soon. And if we do, we know for sure that this was tied into it. On the larger scale of things, we know this whole thing was planned, plotted, and contrived. BLM 2.0 basically in the streets. And of course, a lot of chaos in the midst of all this. Now, this seems to be the tax dollars at work. For people that don't know, we have discovered that the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Right, CHIRLA, CHIRLA, is one of the key players in doing all this. And after doing digging, it looks like they were the ones that led the 2018 campaign to abolish ICE. They also are operating largely off of taxpayer money. That's right. The incredible part here is that Shirla's activities are primarily funded by California taxpayers. The financial audit shows that for the fiscal year ending in June 2023, they received $34 million from the state. $34 million from the state. Mostly through the Department of Social Services, accounting for 72% of the total revenue. That is who and what is funding this. Just on the top layer, we know Soros and the goons are always backing this stuff up. And it's obvious that every single time you look at one of the senators or somebody out there on social media, they're like, pass the BBB to stop this. Oh, really? You're talking about the tyrannical, big, ugly bill that has AI surveillance hidden within it? All of a sudden, we've got this massive staged event popping off, and all the senators are saying that the answer to stop it all is sign the BBB? I don't think so. Some people say we're in a catch-22. You ain't no catch-22 unless you want to be there. Open up your eyes and see that they're playing you. You ain't no catch-22. It's the same old hand that it always is. Creating the problem because they have the manufactured solution already at hand. So they want you to sign the BBB to get millions of dollars to be able to send more troops into the streets. That's their answer. It's garbage. Some of us see right through it. For all the small-minded ones out there that don't, you're just going to get played like a fiddle to the end. All right? This is the establishment running their same old ops as always. And it could spread, is my concern from here. We've seen bricks stacked up on the corners in the areas, and all this being fueled, again, by taxpayer-funded money. This group has a major connection to the mayor of L.A., Karen Bass, as well as Newsom, and the rabbit hole continues to go deeper and deeper. Join me for the live stream. It's going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here, where I can talk about this in greater detail. I hope to see you guys there.
I'm stylish. Got 'em all wild. Stylish. Got 'em all wild. I'm big. Pull up on 'em like I ain't playing around. Tell 'em we gon' play this out.
What's up, guys? D7 back at you with another one. This time, we got to talk about the nationwide chaos that's about to break loose. That is all orchestrated and planned. Now, I broke this down in greater detail on last night's live stream. For those that don't see the live streams, you got to know what's going on here. They are launching a nationwide event that's going to spread city to city. It's already happening. It's happening today. It's moved out of just LA and California, and we know there's movements in Chicago, and we know there's movements in Texas, in many other cities.
Yeah, and speaking of which, let me go ahead and play this quick video of those similar LA anti-ICE riots breaking out in Texas. Let me go ahead and pull that up.
Being loaded onto a police bus there. This video showing a car set on fire in LA as protests continue. The Department of Defense announcing on social media it's mobilizing an additional 2,000 members of the California National Guard called into federal service to support ICE. Against the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration are growing across the country and also right here in Texas.
Take a look at this video out of Austin this morning, and that's where we're told that the protest there was organized by a group that calls themselves the Party for Socialism and Liberation. That group is now calling for an end to the immigration crackdowns that are happening across the country. Meantime, organizers also gathered near downtown Dallas in what they described as a move of solidarity with the protesters in Los Angeles. Just before 10 o'clock last night, Dallas police declared the protest to be an unlawful assembly. Officers arrested one person whose charges are now pending.
Meantime, tensions between protesters and law enforcement on the rise in Los Angeles once again. This is new video apparently showing protesters arrested being loaded onto a police bus there. This video showing a car set on fire in LA as protests continue. The Department of Defense announcing on social media it's mobilizing an additional 2,000 members of the California National Guard called into federal service to support ICE against the Trump administration.
Yep, so that's it. And Trump recently reported, Army parade protests in D.C. could face heavy force, he warned. So he said on Tuesday, Trump threatened to use heavy force against protesters at the military parade being held in Washington this weekend. We're going to celebrate big on Saturday, he said. He told reporters in the Oval Office right after he spoke about sending the National Guard and Marines to L.A. to quell protests there. He said if any protesters want to come out, they will be met with very big force. Okay? You know, and we already know what that heavy big force constitutes, because they're eventually going to go from rubber bullets to actual bullets. Because right now, this is a test run what's going on in L.A. So it says the parade to honor the Army's 250th anniversary also falls on the president's 79th birthday and comes just days after Trump ordered troops to L.A. to respond to protests against U.S. immigration and customs enforcement operations. People that want to protest will be met with big force, he said, noting that he hadn't heard of any plan to protest at the military parade in Washington yet, but this is people that hate our country. They will be met with heavy force. And this goes into why he said that, as I quote him once again, we are going to have troops everywhere. So this is not just about L.A. This is a nationwide orchestrated plan by this devil, all right, to gradually bring forth martial law, all right, to limit as much resistance of the satanic NWO as possible before they institute that chip and eventually make it mandatory. All right, play a little bit more of this video.
If you look at the link that I'm going to leave below, you're going to see that on this website, this No Kings website, that the plan is to have this whole thing erupt this weekend on the 14th. And you're talking all types of cities within every state. There's dozens and dozens of locations in some states alone. So on the 14th, I've got a couple of the cities near me that are pinned on that map. I'm going to visit them. I suggest that you guys keep an eye on your local area. Back when BLM did this, back with the 2020 thing, in their whole summer of love that had followed, they were going and burning down cities, businesses. I sat right there in Louisville and live streamed it with cops that were watching as they torched all of 4th Street and then burnt down the building connected to my hotel, causing us to have to flee. So that was BLM. They're dubbing this movement kind of like BLM 2.0, so to speak. And all the backing is there. I exposed this on the live stream again in greater detail. Make sure to go check that out. At the top of the second hour, around 10 o'clock, I started talking about all this, all the goods, who's backing it, who's funding it. We know Churla's involved, which is a taxpayer-funded arm that Karen Bass is using. And this looks to be a well-planned and organized situation. We see the senators copying each other and basically going and posting the exact same thing, saying that just sign the BBB so we can get more troops in there. And it's like, oh, really? Oh, really? You don't want to mention the fact that the tyrannical AI is hidden in there, but all of a sudden we got a situation where all the senators are saying the same thing, copy and paste, that sign the BBB to save the day. Oh, I don't think so. We ain't falling for that. Well, you know how the Hegelian dialect goes. Going live again Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on Dabu 77, breaking stuff like this down in further detail. Check out the link below, the No Kings link, and see if you've got something going on in your city, your neck of the woods. And on the 14th, be out there with the camera, ready to talk to some people and see what's going on. Or not, or just sit there and do nothing and potentially let these scoundrels invade your neck of the woods. Because last time they weren't good people. They tried to send BLM out to all these areas, and like D. White did. People in their neighborhood, they followed them around, making sure they didn't do anything. So, you either care or you don't. This is what's coming. Nationwide. There's a link below. Much love.
Yeah, so this is a link he's referring to. There's no King's link. You can type in your zip code, your local zip code, to determine if these nationwide protests they've orchestrated will include your particular area. All right, so I mean that insurrection is nigh. What we're seeing right now is just part of Esau's gradualism. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 16. We'll start at verse 68, and it reads, "For behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle, with things offered into idol, or IDLEs, in vain of vanity." All right, these things that be offered to these idols is going to be these people, these lies of vanity. 2nd Ezra 9:22, to this main idol, that chip, that mark of the beast. And once they take that chip, they have officially signed their death sentence to bathe in a lake of fire, which is the penalty of taking that chip in Revelation, the 14th chapter. All right, the thermonuclear fire projected 1 million degrees, along with the severe radiation from the 200 million ICBM missile warheads, prophesied in Revelation, the 9th chapter, around the 16th verse. So this is 2nd Ezra 16:69, and they that consented to them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden under foot, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Shai, and that's only the elect of the nation of Israel. Okay, but mainly they're going to be coming out there every Israelite that is naturally zealous, as it says in Romans 10:2. Our people are zealous just without knowledge. Okay, but they're mainly going to be coming after. They're going to be coming after all of Israel. But they're mainly going to be targeting the elect. Okay, as in recent, intentions of removing Jake from, these particular areas where these Edomites were ruling, where they were being exposed, mainly by the prophets of Jake. Hence Claudius Caesar. Calling for, the expulsion of Jake, doing what we're doing out there on the highways and the hedges, prophesying against Mount Seir, exposing this devil, by lifting up the banner of the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Shai, as it says in Psalm 16:4, which is his word. All right. So it's so history is repeating itself. All right. So the 2nd Ezra 16:71, they should be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling, destroying those that fear the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Shai, for they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as a gold in the fire. All right. And gold is, symbolic of something that's perceived to be abundance, which is the apple of the Lord's eye, the elect. All right, you're gonna be tried in that fire. All right, that symbolic of trials and tribulations, mainly through Jacob's trouble, of great famine, having to go, a certain amount of time without food and water. Okay, facing heavy persecution by Esau's corrupt, tyrannical government. Okay. Racial prejudice and hatred, fueled, on behalf of the oppression, affliction he is directed towards us through his satanic devices. Okay, his law enforcement, riot police, and mainly the military, replacing the law enforcement, for the most part. Okay, people putting each other to death over scarcity of resources. Okay, these Edomite so-called right-wing white nationalist groups targeting Jake to put them to death. Jake's own people looking to put themselves to death. There's going to be complete pandemonium, man. It's going to, once again, pressure from above, pressure from below. Okay, and only the elect can be spared from Yahweh by Shem Shai's wrath through the inclination of his plagues in the final hour of the perilous times that we're entering into. All right. So this is 2nd Ezra 16:74. Hear, O you my beloved, said the Lord, Yahweh by Shem Shai, behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. So I'm going to end it off on that note. Pray this lesson for the edifying of until I can give all praise, the glory, infinite honor to my power, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom was the God of the living, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Barach Barash. Once again, double honor to the apostles and elder bishops, great millstone, for teaching and ruling well, and Shalom, honors and salutations to Bayash Dabadah, regarding the house of David, of the elect, 1/3 of remnant of the nation of Israel, along with the rest of the 1/3 elect men, women, and children of Israel. All right, Abba Ball. Soon, very soon, and on to the next one.